Greetings and welcome back to the Slip Disc Chronicle. It's been a long time since I've done an update. I was planning on doing them rather regularly because I figured I was going to be stuck just sitting watching TV or whatever. I've actually been getting some stuff done despite the injury and the recovery process. So let's just kind of go over this. I want to get to a particular topic, which actually doesn't have to do with this, but has to do with having the time to think while I was in the hospital and after that for a few weeks. But what I want to talk about is a friend of mine. But before that, I'll give you the update on where I am. I'm about 7 weeks out from the surgery, or 6.5, something like that. I was supposed to find out last week if I could get the collar off, and it turns out, and for an unexpected reason, I can. That was the sound of me taking it off, not the sound of my neck breaking. But yeah, I finally saw a PT today. Part of the process when you get out of the hospital for a lot of things, I guess, is they want to make sure that you can feed yourself, bathe yourself, all the rest of that stuff. So you have occupational therapy. I've had that, the in-home version of it, and I've graduated from that. I've had the physical therapy, which basically makes sure that you can get around, and I graduated from that. And now I finally made it to the outpatient, which means I go somewhere to some location where they have more facilities, more exercise equipment and stuff like that to help you improve your mobility, your range of motion on various different things. I mean, my arms are working a lot better. My legs are working a lot better. I still have a problem with my right knee. I don't know if that's related to any of this, but I have actually on that one, I have scheduled an MRI. So hopefully we'll see if there's anything actually wrong there, or if it just requires more exercise on the right than on the left to get me back up and even. So let's hope that everything goes well there. Tonight, I actually managed to cook hamburgers for the family. So that, to me, is massive, major progress. I was almost to the point, not quite, but almost to the point where, people had to bring food to me so I could eat. I was mobile enough when I got out of the hospital, but everybody was saying, be careful, don't bend over, don't do this, don't do that. There was all sorts of restrictions, so they want to make sure that my neck heals properly. I want to make sure that the bone grows back in where it needs to grow in after the surgery. And so we're assuming that that has pretty much happened. The problem I had was that last week I was supposed to go see the neurosurgeon, but due to a paperwork snafu, I guess we'll call it, I didn't have my x-ray in time. So I've now got the x-ray and we've rescheduled, so I should see that doctor in about another week. So hopefully at 8 weeks out, something like that, I should have an answer on whether I can take off the collar for good. PT has basically said, look, if the doctor told you you can take it off to sleep or, give it a little bit, but then after a little bit, take it off and start getting used to sleeping without it because you're not going to move around too much while you're sleeping. I was too nervous about that, so I kept wearing it. Now they're encouraging me to take it off to sleep, and actually I have it off right now because I'm sitting at my computer talking to a microphone and to the people on the other end of the line there, to all of you. I'm not moving my neck too much to be putting myself in danger. I will put it back on when I go for a walk, things like that. So that's pretty much where I am now, 6.5 weeks out. So if you're going through the same thing, please be encouraged that it is difficult as it is to go through. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and the tunnel may not be as long as you think it is. So I hope that for all of you, if anybody's listening to this just because they're curious what it's like, or because they're going through it, there is light. There is pay attention to the doctors. If something does go wrong, they'll tell you exactly what to do. I have not actually heard from the neurosurgeon yet whether I've messed anything up, but I'm feeling a whole lot better with the PT and the OT, physical therapy and occupational therapy. I'm feeling a lot stronger. I'm able to sit up for most of the day. I do take a nap, but that's because I'm getting old. So that's where I am on that. Now, the title of this particular video, or the subtitle, is going to be Remembering John. And that's the friend I wanted to talk about. I don't want to use his full name because there are other parts of his family that have been impacted by things. And I'm trying to be careful here. But John was a friend I met back when I lived on the East Coast. I'll feed you enough information that if you actually know John, maybe I'm giving you some more information about him and how wonderful a guy he was. I met him when I lived on the East Coast, and I was a teenager at the time. I'm now almost 60. And we learned computers together. To give you an idea, the first real popular personal computers were the Apples. This was before IBM came out with the PC and everybody cloned it. And it was long before Apple became the monster that it is today. So we got to learn, we were in high school. He was a year or two ahead of me. But we were really good friends. And one day his dad brought home a computer and we're like, what's with the computer on the dining room table? And so what had happened was his dad owned a construction business, and he had bought the computer to help with accounting and other stuff in the office, but it turned out to be not what he needed. So he brought it home. And we asked, okay, well, can we play around with it? And it turned out, we looked at the manual and realized at the back of the manual were all these sample programs that you could type into the computer and make it do things. And we just grabbed a hold of that. We really ran with it. And the amazing thing about it all is it did not matter one iota that John was blind. In fact, the first time I met him sitting with his brother on the steps out in front of his house. And we got to talking and we were having all sorts of fun. And I said something and his brother said, "You do realize that John is blind?" And that's the thing. People that are disabled, a lot of them, well, it doesn't impact them. Now, there were realities to it. So when John and I sat down to figure out the computer, he could touch type on a regular keyboard. So what we did was we'd find these programs in the back of the book. We read through the book enough to understand how to put the programs into the computer. The manual that came with the Apple II Plus was amazing, just in terms of teaching you. If you really wanted to dig into it, Steve Wozniak, thank you. Everybody gives so much credit to his partner, but Wozniak was an amazing engineer, designer. Just so much credit goes to him. But what we would do is we read through enough to figure out, or I read through out loud, and John got to hear what I was saying. We got to a point where we could enter the programs, and we decided, okay, we'll share the work here. John will do the typing. I'll read it off to him. He'll type it in, and then I'll look up at the screen to make sure that he's typing it in correctly, because everybody makes mistakes regardless. So we would get the first program in, and then we would run the program, and it was so cool to see the computer doing something. And mind you, this is long before cell phones and all of the technology that we have nowadays. You got to kind of wonder when they're going to give you the ability to just type in a program on your phone and let it act like a computer. There might be security issues there, but, that might be the next step. We started with a big box computer. It looked reasonably sleek, but it had what it amounted to like a TV on top of it. Nowadays, you get a computer, you've got the flat LCD screens. We had the CRTs. We had the big, deep CRTs that stuck out, 1.5 feet from the wall kind of thing. And we would type these programs in, we'd watch them run, and we figured out, okay, what if we change this one line of code? How does that make the program different? How does it behave differently? And we started modifying programs. So we went through all the programs in that manual. And then from there, we did not go to the internet because the internet as we know it now did not exist yet. We went to the library and we found books on basic programming, and we started learning basic programming and typing in Star Trek as a text adventure or a baseball game or all sorts of fun things that were text adventures. If you remember Zork, it was kind of like that, but it was even before that. And so we had so much fun doing all of this stuff. And John got a Braille terminal, and he was able to read books on a Braille terminal. He also had the precursor to audiobooks, which were books for the blind, where you had somebody actually reading the book. So he had that stuff. He could read Stephen King and other things. He could type. In fact, actually, we got to the point where we both became so self-sufficient on the programming end of things that I would go home and I would write on notebook paper a program, and John would be sitting there because it was in his house. The computer was in his house. But he would be sitting there writing a program on his Braille terminal, and then we would connect it up to the computer and transfer it. And then we could watch what he had done, and he would be up late at night working on it, and I'd be up late at night writing a program down at home, and then we'd have to go over to his house and type everything in. There was one computer for the two of us. There were, in high school in the 80s, before we had computer labs, probably remember having to share a computer with somebody. So really fond memories for me. And that's how I got into the programming stuff. And then later I decided I like soldering stuff together, and it went into engineering. But then I got to college, and the short story on that one is I went into college. My first semester, I came out with a 1.0 GPA out of 4. And then we actually moved. So it was perfect timing for me to take a break. Went back at college like a year later after everything was moved into the house, and we built a darkroom for my dad and getting everything organized. So I went back to school, and my next semester in college, I doubled my GPA, which is no small feat, except that I only had a couple of semesters under my belt at that point. But yeah, that's kind of my story leading up to that. And then I was like, do I do the computer science or do I do the engineering? Which one do I want to do? And in a perfect world, I would have gone for computer engineering, but that didn't really exist at a lot of colleges at that point. And it turned out that for the engineering, I needed some more advanced math that I was having a lot of trouble with. So I ended up deciding to go the computer science route. I ended up ultimately graduating with a degree in computer science just as the dot-com bubble burst. And if you remember that, you know what I'm talking about. After the dot-com bubble burst and I struggled trying to find a job, I decided to go back to school, finally conquer the math, and go after my engineering degree. So I have both computer science and an electrical engineering degree, and all that before the new century. So here I am, almost 60, and my websites are gardening, nature, computer science, and engineering. So you kind of understand where I'm coming from on that. It's more engineering than it is computer science right now, but the plan is probably 2025, maybe halfway through or into 2026, I'll start going the route of the microcontrollers and doing all the programming on that. But I really want to solidify my engineering skills that I didn't really get a chance to because I graduated there just as all of the aerospace industry moved out of Southern California, and a lot of those jobs went away. The people that stuck around got to take the few jobs that were left. So that's kind of where I am on all of this. But going back a little bit, actually, that kind of brings you up almost to modern day. Going back to John and going back to, we graduated high school, or he graduated high school first, went off to college. John went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI, on the East Coast. And the reason I'm remembering all of this, and it's all come flooding back, is I've got a T-shirt. John went to college, same college where a lot of you, if you've taken a physics class, where those first physics books that you get in college were written by professors over there at RPI. But I went to go visit him like a year in, or maybe not even, something like, I'm trying to remember if it was his first year or second year. But I went up to go visit him, and I brought a friend of ours with me. We took the train up there. It wasn't like everybody drove everywhere back then. You could hop on a train, especially in the East Coast. There's good mass transit up there. So we took the train up, and I think I'll skip a few details of the visit to college in the early days, the early years of somebody's college education. But one of the things was he said, oh, yeah, you got to check this out. They've got this, not a symposium, it was a meeting in one of the, I don't think it was a lecture hall. I think it was like a student unit or something like that. And it was this really funny kind of thing. It was like, instead of big man on campus kind of thing, they had this MMOC. And I have the T-shirt. When we went to go there, they were like asking questions, or I forget what it was. It was like a quiz kind of thing where they'd ask a question, and they were not like science questions or anything like that. And somehow I ended up winning a T-shirt. So I've still got the T-shirt, and I've been cleaning up my lab, my office, my bedroom, just trying to get my life more organized while I recover from all of this. And I came across this T-shirt, and I'm going, oh man, that goes all the way back to, I think, what was it, 84? 83. Well, that answers the question. I think it was his first year, because I graduated high school in 83. And it was GM week is what it was. But the MMOC, if somebody remembers what that stands for, I wish I could. It's something on campus, of course. But it was like somebody would get up to speak and start making these grandiose promises like you hear presidents making at campaign rallies and stuff. And I'm not picking on one particular person. This has happened since then and before then. People would make these grand promises, and then the audience, basically, it was really kind of funny, and the audience would chant BS, 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 and I'm shortening it to make it a little cleaner. And it was funny, being a teenager, early college days kind of thing, and it was just really funny to see a whole crowd chant that they were lying, that they could tell that what they were saying couldn't be true. And that was it's a great memory for me, having the T-shirt, which now is way too small for me to wear. But I may keep it at least for a little bit longer. I've been trying to teach myself to get rid of certain things, but this one just has so many memories attached to it. And John, and unfortunately, John, several years ago, passed away. And the reason I'm not giving his last name is because his brother, the same one who said, you do realize he's blind, was impacted by one of the school shootings. His son was one of the victims. If I understand it right, when that particular school shooting happened and we looked at the names of the victims, I was like, oh my God. Oh, I felt so bad for him, and I hope you know, if this somehow gets to you, I felt so bad for you, and I feel so bad that you lost your brother. I hope everything else is going well, but if somehow, by some miracle, and me not revealing much, if this gets to you, know that I care about you, and I hope everything else is okay. Yeah, it's just really good memories of John. Good memories with his brother. We were different age brackets, so we didn't really interact that much. But my heart goes out to you. And so all of this came flooding back when I saw this shirt. You know what? Maybe I'll hold on to it for a while, and if you find out about this, I'd be more than happy to send you the shirt. It probably won't fit. But yeah, I think that's going to be my excuse. I'm going to hold on to this. So if there is some prayer that you hear about this, contact me through, drop a note in the comments below or something. Or if you know who I'm talking about and let him know, that would be wonderful. But John was a credit to the programming community. He was helping other blind people with dealing with the difficulties of being blind and being a programmer. He was involved in forums and answering questions because he had that Braille terminal. He could read what people were posting and he could help. So John was a wonderful, wonderful man, and I miss him dearly. I've been wanting to do this particular episode for a while, and I think that's why it's been so long since I posted an update on my own health, as I've been trying to figure out how am I going to do this. But there you go. That is the story of John, my interaction with him, and a brief update on my health. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for listening to this. It feels good to get it out. And I'll try to get an update somewhat soon. I see the neurosurgeon, in 8 days or something like that. So I'll find out about getting my collar off. I'll find out about any restrictions that he might still want me to be careful about, not lifting too many things or too heavy, or not trying to turn my head on its side or try and turn it all the way around to the other side, which I'm not going to try it. But soon I will be back to making videos. I can show my face again because I can get the collar off and it won't be such a distraction to the video. But again, thank you so much for listening to this. Feels good. We miss you, John. Take care.